AEA staff support some of the best work happening in school buildings all over the state. We're going to take our listeners on the road into these buildings and talk to AEA and district staff about partnerships making a difference for kids. Over the last few years, classrooms across the nation have taken a new approach to teaching through personalization, and many districts in our service area have used this approach to empower students and optimize their education. In this episode, I hit the road to one of those districts and visited Tipton, Iowa. On this trip, I sat down with two of our AEA consultants, Amber Bridge and Mindy Cairney, 3 Tipton educators, and 3 middle school students to hear from each of them about blended and personalized learning. So why don't we start by talking about what each of you do here at Tipton and how long you've been working with the district.
So this is actually my first year with Tipton. I am first and foremost, I guess, their digital learning consultant, but also part of the blended and personalized learning team.
And I've been with Tipton since I started at the agency, which is about 8 years ago. Tipton's lens is through personalization. So that is what they have adopted here to really drive all of the work. And so it's all about the student and trying to understand the students that they have currently, not creating our curriculum from students in the past and their experiences, but who is in front of us right now and how can we best meet their needs. They do learner experience surveys and they look at that data as teachers and groups and coaches, and they try to use that to make decisions going forward. And then Mindy and I are kind of doing a handoff in a way, but yet this work is so important, there needs to be boots on the ground.
Grant Wood AEA's blended and personalized learning team has been supporting districts with this approach to learning for around 7 years. Tipton's been participating for 5 of those years. I asked what type of changes I could expect to see here compared to a typical classroom.
Well, it's very collaborative, I guess. Working with Amber is fantastic. Our relationship, I think, is really strong, and we are usually on the same page about things. But I think the important thing is that we try to listen to Tipton as much as we can and honor their opinions, and I think they honor ours too. And so it really is a partnership as opposed to coming in just as this outside third-party source.
Exactly. Like they've had us come in to be part of observations and invited us to the conversation and to allow us to be in those coaching conversations to really connect with their teachers.
So it's not just about looking at the data and saying, okay, I'm going to make this change. Then it's about asking the students again, so how was that change? What did that change look like? How did it feel like to you? And we're going to continue to ask for your feedback over and over again. And that really is different.
What have you seen with the Wave 1 data? What have you and the teachers, I guess, seen with the Wave 1 data?
I think how important it is that teachers are building relationships with their students. So some of the questions that they ask would be, is my teacher happy that I'm their student? Does my teacher respect me? Does my teacher listen to my ideas and make changes? Those are where we're seeing huge jumps. There's always positives, I think. There's lots of different questions that they're asking, but the most important thing I see is about relationships.
I would completely agree with that. It's really about, do they feel valued within their school, and do they feel as though their school, has something safe to offer them? And those are kind of coming through. We were just engaged in a conversation of, so the types of questions I ask my students, that makes them feel more safe. Yeah, yes. That was the realization they came to, and it was really awesome.
I love that the district collected data on this work by asking students what they thought of their education. And hearing about it really made me want to speak to a few students myself. We brought in 5th grader Karina, 8th grader Shelby, and 6th grader Sean to reflect on their personalized learning experiences. Your school has been doing a lot of work in personalization, meaning they want to know kind of what students want to learn and how they want to learn, and they can kind of shape the things that happen in the classroom around the things that you're interested in. So how would you say your learning, what does your learning look like in those classrooms?
Every Tuesday we choose a writing and then a reading activity, and we would do that for 20 minutes, and then we could free read or do red ink.
So it's kind of allowing you to maybe choose some things that you're able to do.
Usually just teachers having us do individual things on our own and working with partners.
Anything else you guys would say?
No, she did a pretty good job at that.
All right, she did. I agree. In a blended and personalized classroom, sometimes students work on their own, and sometimes they work in pairs or small groups. I asked the students what it was like to work with one of their peers.
When you work with someone else in a lot of classrooms, they let you pick your partner, and you could go sit somewhere away from other people, just discuss whatever it is you need to discuss.
Is that different than maybe what you would have done 3 or 4 years ago when you were in lower grades, or is it similar?
I think it's a little different from what we used to do, like in the lower grades, because back then usually they'd assign partners and just have us do it that way.
I was curious what other ways teachers were granting students freedom to learn in a way that works for them.
I would say when we were younger, it was more of a do this than do that.
Mm-hmm.
Step by step, it wasn't a you have your own freedom. For example, in Miss Edwards' room, for a while, she would create videos and there'd be like links on it. And then if you work at a fast pace, you can just click the link, watch the video, take the notes, and then do the work and then move on.
Mm-hmm. Would it be the right thing to say that maybe there's a lot of variety in the ways that you learn now? Is it more different than maybe you would have experienced 4 or 5 years ago?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Is that a good thing?
Yeah,
I'd say this.
Yeah. Karina, what do you like about that?
Well, I like because I also work at a fast pace.
I mean, is it just nice to know that you are learning new things as fast as you can, rather than maybe sometimes you have to wait for everyone to be at the same spot?
Yeah.
Yeah. All teachers want their students to understand where they are as learners and identify their next action steps. Tipton is taking initiative by giving their students surveys in which they are asked to reflect on the support they're getting and if it's helping them to be successful students. The teachers and our AEA staff then take that data and set personalized classroom goals. What does it look like when you set goals with your teacher in your classroom?
we have these things called WIGs, which stands for Wildly Important Goal. And pretty much you have a self-management goal, which is like, let's say you're in reading and you want to read faster maybe or better. Then you could be like, I want to read 10 minutes a day. And over a 4-week period, you each week you check the boxes to like show that you've done the steps to achieve that goal. And then we do the exact same thing for like maybe an academic goal. So like in math, we do ISASPs or NWEA. And let's say you want to get a higher score on that. And maybe you ask your math teacher for more like extra work, or you ask them to make sure, like, to explain this again so that way you're fully understanding things.
And do you check in then periodically with the teacher about your progress on the goal? When you get a project back, do you just get like a letter grade, or do you get like a rubric or comments, or is the grade broken down into a lot of different parts and pieces?
In some classes, you could get the rubric, and they have comments on like what you could do to improve the next time. And in some classes, they do letter grades, like comments around it, just telling you what you should do next time.
Is that kind of what all of you are experiencing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I really like how we just read the BFG, which is a book. I really liked how she just like let us off to partners and do a cheat about it, and then she would put comments on it, and then we would get it back, and we had to redo what she put comments on. And she just like made sure that we got it not perfect, but like better.
So you just worked at it until it was a better version of what it was before.
Yeah.
You like that?
And I know that when I had Miss King, and way back when I was in 6th grade, one thing that I definitely really liked about her is that she valued that you understood it, not your grade. So if you got an A on the test, that's great, you understand it. But if I know, like, let's say, for example, you get a D, then you might not understand it as well. I know she'd take the time to make sure that you understood it.
Well, it goes without saying that these are 3 impressive middle school students. They were able to understand that the learning itself, not just the end product, was the most important aspect of their education. I was ready to sit down with a few of the people responsible for their success. I'm John Speer, Chief Administrator at Grant Wood AEA, and with us we have...
I'm Troy Smock. I'm the Tipton Middle School Principal.
I'm Trina Hill, the Instructional Coach.
And I'm Lori Foss. I'm a 5th, 6th grade language art teacher.
When you see them in the classroom now, let's say as opposed to 5 years ago, what do you see from them that's different? Right? Other than the furniture and all, all those things.
That's the easy part.
So if I was looking at what they do and the way they're doing it, how would we know, hey, that's pretty different than maybe 5 years ago?
I would say that kids are not always looking to the teacher to answer all of their questions. They're not looking to the teacher to know, like, all right, now what do I do? Because they have resources in front of them that are giving them direction or giving them their pathway to make a choice, which is completely different.
You are seeing differences in the kids when they're in the classes that have done it and the classes that are more traditional. I assume for a kid, it just feels different as opposed to I'm really driving my learning in some classes, and other classes I'm catching the learning that's coming at me, kind of a deal. So just like the teachers have worked hard and our staff has worked hard, the kids are working hard because it's harder work to do, but I think it's more important.
It is harder work for the kids, which they don't always like. But
well, the old saying is that a student shouldn't come to work to watch adults work hard.
Nope. Right.
They should have a vested interest, and so it's interesting that you point out that they're doing more self-directed learning. They're more autonomous or individualized. So it's really fun to talk to the kids too, because they don't always use those terms, but they talk about how it's maybe different than what they've experienced.
I mean, almost to a person, they could feel their experience was different with Mrs. Foss than it was with other teachers. Not that the others were wrong or bad, it just felt different, and they're honest. I mean, I remember when we did more of the sit-down focus groups when there wasn't just a score on a thing. They say what they think. They're in middle school, they say what they think.
Right. Using surveys to ask students to reflect on their education certainly added a fresh perspective to the district's results. I asked the team what other aha moments stood out in this process.
I'm just thinking, I don't even know if it's an aha, but it's like the biggest thing that stands out to me is changing the way that we are presenting the learning to students, and is changing the way that they are engaged with their own learning. And that to me is what's probably become the most important.
Right.
They are much more invested. They are much more taking ownership of their learning. It's still really hard for a lot of kids to take ownership of their own learning because they haven't had to before. So some of them want to kind of push back on that.
And part of that work that we're doing to support the teachers is how do you make those tiny steps along the way to hand ownership over to kids so that they can actually pick it up. You can't go from a very traditional model to we're going to hand ownership over to kids without a lot of iterations along the way of how you're helping them to know what it is that they need to do.
Right.
Or you can't also do that just as a teacher without creating a community of learners that are doing that to support each other.
And both teachers and learners have to learn how to do it, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's a journey.
So that probably is my biggest joy, right? Probably it's my role too, is watching teachers become incredibly excited about the work that they're doing in their classroom.
I think if there's a joyous teacher, there are more joyful students. And that's kind of what I connect to.
Has it made you a better teacher, do you think?
100%. Yes, absolutely. It makes me feel really bad for the teacher that I was 10 years ago.
It's just a process, right? She was being humble, of course, but we can all aspire to grow as educators. In fact, helping teachers grow is what Grant Wood AEA is all about. I asked how Amber and Mindy were helping them through this process.
So we meet and plan with Mindy and Amber. Jess and I do, the other instructional coach, and really think about what's happening in classrooms. They'll also come and we do walkthroughs with the teachers. We're also in classrooms quite a bit, capturing video and of teaching, but also what's happening with the students. So it's been great to have them as a resource. They have a vast knowledge of the personalized learning work. In fact, the whole Grant Wood team does, but it's a great resource to be able to tap into.
And even for the whole school, here's something that could be better. how do we jump into it? How do we do it? And then the partnership with the AEA and then also with the Highlander has been phenomenal. I mean, tremendous growth, I think, for all of us from that process.
I was pleased to hear their kind words and wanted to touch base with Amber and Mindy for a few final reflections. So what leads the two of you to do this work?
I guess I look back at becoming a consultant at Grant Wood, and I always thought being here allowed me to reach more students because I could talk to lots of teachers, and I feel like that's where the power of this work is. It's the trickle down, but also the push up. I don't know. And so just kind of seeing the change and seeing right now it's really hard for teachers, but to still see them get excited and leave our conversations ignited and ready to go again, I think is really exciting because I know how hard it is right now.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, it's been really awesome through the work here at Tipton for teachers to see them come through a journey and so that they can have a different view of what education can be like. You know, a math teacher was saying how important it is for students to talk to each other and to not think that there's just one right answer, but there's multiple ways to solve that problem. That's a whole new way that we're opening up education. To hear them come to those realizations on their own has been really exciting.
Do you think the success and the excitement of the Wave 1 teachers has made the Wave 2 teachers get involved in the project? You know, is it just building because of the successes they've seen, do you think?
100%. Just last week they went in and observed in their classrooms and they walked out like, how did they get this done? Or what are the steps I have to take to do this? And I really think it is about, you know, the willingness of those Wave 1 teachers to really take this on and be vulnerable and allow all these outsiders into their classroom. That takes a lot. And so I respect that tremendously, and I think they do too, because that's what builds a team within a building too. Anything you want to add to that?
You nailed it.
Oh.
No, she did a pretty good job at that.
Cool. Well, we're really excited to be here with Amber and Mindy, and this is John Speer, and we've been on the road at Tipton Middle School.